Hello Year 10 Triple Science Biology. This lesson, the objectives are to describe and explain the movement of carbon in the carbon cycle. I know at the end of last week's lesson, we'd got to the page in your booklets on Unit 1.6, Ecosystems, Nutrient Cycles and Human Impact on the Environment. We got to the page on the carbon cycle, which is page 9, and we'd already started looking at decay, what is required for decay, why decay doesn't occur, and then we've started looking at different composting methods and looking at the advantages and disadvantages of each. So this section of the syllabus we can see here is regarding the carbon cycle and understanding that carbon is constantly cycled in nature by photosynthesis, which incorporates it, and by respiration, which releases it. You also need to be aware of the combustion of fossil fuels releasing carbon dioxide. But there are lots of other parts to the carbon cycle that you will see in this PowerPoint presentation. So at the start of the lesson on page 9, I want you to just spend a moment reading through this text on the carbon cycle. As I said previously, I needed you to have 3 different colours. It doesn't matter if you haven't got yellow, green and pink, okay, as long as you've chosen 3 different colours. They can be pencils, they can be highlighters, they can be a different colour biro, it doesn't matter. But I want you to take one colour and go through the entire text, highlighting all the places where carbon is found from the text. I want you to take a second colour and highlight all the processes that take carbon from the atmosphere. And I want you to take a third colour and highlight all the processes that return carbon to the atmosphere. So I'm just going to give you the first 5 minutes just to spend some time reading through that text and making sure that you've got those particular things, the places it's found, the processes that take it in, and the processes that return it highlighted in your text. So pause the video at this place, okay, to complete that task. So on my next page, this is the text with the work highlighted in it. So as we said, my colours that I've used, yellow is for the places that carbon is found. So the first place that it's found is in all living things, animals, plants, mushrooms, toadstools, bacteria. It makes up all living things. So carbon is found in the bodies of animals and plants. You can also get carbon in the atmosphere, although its form is not as the element, it's in the form of a compound carbon dioxide. Carbon is also in the sugars of a plant because sugars have the formula for glucose, for example, C6H12O6. So there's 6 carbon atoms, 12 hydrogens and 6 oxygens. It's also found in other carbohydrates. If we break that word up, we can see that it actually starts with carbo, then hyd for the hydrogen, and 8 always indicates there's some oxygen in the compound. And as we can see, atmosphere appears again here. In our third paragraph, carbon is also found in fossil fuels like coal. It would also be in oil and in gas too. Atmosphere appears again in this paragraph, paragraph 4. Animals, body of the animals, atmosphere in the 5th paragraph. Trapped in the body of the animal as parts of its tissue. And this one, dung, animals' dung, feces, okay? When the animal dies as well, the carbon is also in the dead body and it gets released into the atmosphere when the decomposers break it down. Some of the carbon dioxide, that's a mistake, it is not a mistake actually, is dissolved in the water, so it's not part of the compound water, but it is in a mixture, it's dissolved in it. Phytoplankton is very, very small plants that are found in the oceans. They contain carbon. So do animals, but also the animals make shells from the carbon. And this sometimes can be from the carbonaceous rocks. Water, atmosphere, and the final one, rocks deep underground. So that's for all the places it's found. So all the processes that take carbon from the atmosphere, this is in green in my text. And the only processes really that take the carbon from the atmosphere are photosynthesis, which appears in 2 paragraphs here, And then when it's taken from the atmosphere, it dissolves in the water. It's still there though in the water. It's just not in the atmosphere. So technically we can say it's been taken out of the atmosphere. And the last area, the last process that returned carbon to the atmosphere, there's a couple of places here. We've got respiration. We carry out respiration, but also so do plants. They take oxygen and they release carbon dioxide as a waste gas. So do decomposers. When they carry out decomposition or decay, as we looked at in my PowerPoint on death, okay, when decay has happened, the bacteria, the fungi, microorganisms, microbes, whatever you want to call them, they carry out respiration themselves, and that releases carbon dioxide. Combustion, any form of burning of anything that contains carbon is going to release carbon dioxide. We've got respiration again. And then carbon dioxide is released from the water into the atmosphere. It will sometimes, as the water evaporates, carbon dioxide will go into the atmosphere. And in volcanic activity. So the carbon dioxide is often released from rocks that are deep underground. Now, from taking this information, what I want you to do is in your booklet, you have a blank sheet. I think it is on page 11. Okay. And I want you to see if you can try and turn that information into your own carbon cycle that you've started in your head. Okay. Word of advice, turn the page sideways so it's landscape. Okay. I tend to start off with animals and plants. So I know that not everybody is the world's greatest artists, okay? So things like the prospect of drawing a plant or drawing an animal may scare some of you, okay? Although others of you, I'm sure, are talented artists. So start with grass, is quite easy to draw, somewhere near the middle of your page, okay? And then draw yourself some kind of small animal, okay? The easiest way, if you really are struggling, a pig. There we are. Okay, super easy. That's all it needs to be. I don't want you to go to town and spend too long creating lovely illustrations of animals. Okay, this is more about the process and understanding the cycling. Okay, so draw your diagram on the arrows between the organisms. So however where you plan to draw it, you need to say what the process is, how the carbon is passing from one organism to the next. So for example, the pig would eat the grass, okay, or the plants, and so the carbon would pass from the plant to the animal. And then think about all the other ways, okay, that are on here. Get the processes on, okay, to show the carbon dioxide. You could have in the air. I mean, this is not the exact kind of format that you might draw it, but you might have carbon dioxide in the air. So think about how you're going to get carbon dioxide going into the air and how it's going to come back again. Okay, so just to give you a few ideas, okay, on how to start this. So pause the video, spend some time drawing your own labeled version of the carbon cycle for me, please. So if you're starting to get stuck, if you're really not sure how to organise this work, we've got our carbon in the air. Obviously, it would exist in the air as carbon dioxide here. So I've put it quite near the top. As I said, a plant, it doesn't have to be complicated. You can just draw some grass, okay, like that. And then we've got our arrow. So photosynthesis during the day. It takes, okay, carbon dioxide during the day, okay, is taken in by the plant to carry out photosynthesis. But also, this arrow can go back because respiration during the night will release CO2, okay? We've got our little rabbit here that's going to eat our grass. And we also know that our rabbit is going to carry out respiration and release the carbon dioxide into the air. So here we've got our arrow showing feeding or eating. Then our next arrow on here is the animal excreting waste in the form of feces and urine. We could also have that the animal dies, unfortunately, okay? We can have that the plant starts to die and decay. So all of these processes, excretion, animal dying, plant dying, there's all going to be decay going on here to release the carbon dioxide back into the air by the microbes, causing the decay by respiration of soil microbes. Then if we don't have complete decay of the plant and animal material, sometimes we get what we call fossilization. So this is how coal and oil and gas have been created millions of years ago. So these fossil fuels, when we burn them with combustion, that releases carbon dioxide back into the atmosphere again. So another example here, carbon dioxide in the air but also in water. We've got photosynthesis, chiefly plants and algae in the sea. We've got respiration, burning and decay will add CO2 back to the atmosphere. We've got a typical animal cell, or animals like cows here, eating the plants. We've got excrement and death, supposed to be a little dead Nemo there. Okay, decay, microorganisms and bacteria causing this and pushing it back in. Respiration as well. And then we've got our limestone, coal and oil, our burning of these things. So your next task is going to be to write some information text. I want you to write this information text in a logical order. Normally I would have some props. Now if Mr. Hancock can find these, they are in the fume cupboard in my room. And I think I showed you very briefly 2 weeks ago in the lesson. There's some fake dog poo. There's a plant a fake plant that normally you find in an aquarium in some kind of fish tank. Some kind of farmyard animal from my son's farm set from many, many years ago. A little tube of carbon dioxide in there. And there might be some little sheets, some little words saying that. So if you are able to get hold of these props, you can organise them in your groups, okay? Don't be in a group of more than 4 people, okay? Stay in your seat, stay local to where you are sat, okay? So you're keeping in your seating plan, and arrange them. And when you've got them arranged, I want you to tell one another, each person taking it in turns to be a narrator, to tell the person how the carbon is getting from the one prop to the other prop, okay, in the carbon cycle. The reason we do this is if you can explain it to somebody else, how the carbon is cycled, it makes it easier for you to remember. And the reason why is because you're going to be writing some extended writing text, a QWC response on the carbon cycle. So just spend around about 10 minutes with the props, certainly no more than that time, okay, to get that task done and get it embedded in your brain. So if we're going to explain the carbon cycle, we've got our animal here, okay, so it might be a cow, it might be a pig, whatever you've got in your props, okay. We've got, obviously it dies, decays, okay. We've got it excreting, our little poop here. We've got the dead animal or plant. If it doesn't decay, it is fossilized and then in combustion releases carbon dioxide. How is the coal made? Okay, and the gas and the oil over millions of years ago, coal comes from dead plants and animals that didn't fully decay. They got compressed over millions of years and turned into coal. And oil comes from the animals that were compressed, and the same with the gas. We've got our living plant, okay, is obviously going to be taking in the carbon dioxide, so this strawberry plant photosynthesizing during the day, but at night is going to be releasing the carbon dioxide, and that can get eaten by our animal. And then we've got our corpse, our dead person. This 4,000-year-old corpse preserved in ice hasn't decomposed because it hasn't had the right conditions. It hasn't been warm enough for the bacteria to decay it. So if you can include that in your description to your group. So why is carbon so important to us? Well, it's the main constituent of all living cells, okay? So organic chemistry, in the study of biochemistry. It can form very long-chained molecules, which are the basis for building up fats, carbohydrates, nucleic acids, which we find in DNA and RNA, and also in proteins. It's a component of our fuels that we have used in the past and are still using, but are running out of, coal and gas. And it makes up carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. So, a quick recap. Plants take in carbon dioxide because they need carbon and oxygen to use in photosynthesis, okay? They make sugars and other substances like protein. I'm not quite sure why that's missing there. They make sugars like glucose. When animals eat plants, they use some of the carbon-containing compounds to grow. Some of them are used to release energy by respiration. So here we have the missing words, which I'll rub out mine so that you can see them on here. So our green, our red and our pink. So you've got on page 13 a quick summary that I would like you to complete, okay? And on the opposite page, on page 12, this is where I want you to write your information text on how carbon is cycled. So when you are writing this text, I want you to make sure you include all the key scientific terms: photosynthesis, respiration, combustion, decomposition, decay, fossilization. I'm sure I've probably missed some somewhere, microorganisms, okay, plants and animals. But also, can you make sure you use capital letters to start sentences, full stops to end, and don't give me one big long paragraph. Try to chunk it up where possible. So I want you to complete the information text on the left-hand side first, and then I want you to complete the writing on the right-hand side, the filling in the missing gaps. So pause the video at this point to give yourself a good 15 to 20 minutes to get your information text down. I'm giving you a bit longer than what you would have in the exam normally so that you can start to check it and proofread it. You can use your books to help you. Don't feel you've got to do this blind, so you can turn back and use the information that you've got. And then pause the video, as I said, and you can come back to do this task. So I need you to fill in the missing words, which are here on the board. So in our first paragraph, the only thing that removes CO2 from the atmosphere is photosynthesis. Plants use it to make fats, carbohydrates and proteins. Both plant and animal respiration puts carbon back into the atmosphere. And our last paragraph here, carbon from dead animals and plants, they can be either way round, can end up as fossil fuels. When this is burnt, it releases carbon. Some dead animals and plants could be eaten or decayed by microorganisms or turned into food and then eaten by humans. And the final thing for you to complete in your booklets for today's lesson is on page 10. So page 10 has a diagram, and all I want you to do is to pause the video at this point and add your labels onto this diagram for me, please. And there we can see, you can check whether you've got these labels in the correct order. For the second lesson, which is after lunch today, what I would like you to do is some of the practical past paper questions. So they start on page, I'm just checking, page 25. So hopefully you've had a nice break for lunch, okay? I'm just going to end this show and skip to where the questions are. You're going to start with a little starter activity, a true or false questions, okay? So if I start it from here, you can use thumbs up for true, you can use thumbs down for false, so whoever is taking the lesson can see and give you a moment with each question. So green plants use carbon dioxide in photosynthesis. If you can give your answer, and it is true. Second question, combustion removes carbon from the atmosphere. So if you can give your answer as a thumbs up or down, Thumbs up for true, down for false. That is false. Combustion releases carbon dioxide gas. The largest store of carbon is the atmosphere. Is that true or false? Give your answer now. It is false. More is actually found in marine organisms and limestone rock deposits. Respiration adds carbon dioxide to the atmosphere. True or false? Give your answer. It is true. Respiration only occurs in animals. True or false? Give your answer. It is false. Both animals and plants respire. Decomposers remove carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. Is this true or false? Give your answer. It is false. They respire and release carbon dioxide. Fossil fuels represent a huge but decreasing store of carbon. Is this true or false? It is true. Increasing carbon dioxide may cause global cooling. Is this true or false? Give your answer. It is false. Scientists think it will cause global warming. There's quite strong evidence for that. Energy is transferred from plants to animals to decomposers. Is this true or false? It is true. Respiration releases energy to the environment in the form of heat. This is true. And that was the end of the quiz. So when I'm back, okay, when we've got a little bit more time, we will play the keyword bingo. So we want to go to our past paper questions. So I'm going to skip past the nitrogen cycle. And you have these. They start on page 25. So I'm just going to get rid of that a second. And we have got our ecosystems booklet. So if we go down to page 25, it's this question on the right hand side, okay? So you should be able to see, move it across. It is a past paper question where you've got the basic outline of a carbon cycle. So you've got some parts have been put on, but not all of them. Use the diagram above and your own knowledge to explain in detail how carbon is cycled in nature. Start your account with carbon dioxide being taken up by green plants. So you're going to start your discussion from here. And it doesn't matter which way round you go, as long as you end up with it coming back to the green plants. So I'm going to give you 10 to 15 minutes to attempt that question first. So if the teacher can pause the video for you to attempt that. Once you've finished then, the next 2 pages are a question about seagrass. Now, this was actually what they call a PISA-style question set. I can't remember what year this one was set, okay? So what we mean by a PISA-style question is there's normally quite a lot of text to read or some data, some information to analyse. And the expectation is that some of the answers will be found in the text and some of the answers will be knowledge from the content that you've been taught in lessons. So this is an 8-mark PISA style question. It's been separated up. This would be a foundation tier style question because we have multiple choice answers in section A and B. If this was a higher tier, you're less likely to see multiple choice on higher tier papers. So it's a nice easy one for you to start off with. So if the teacher can pause the video and you can have a go at answering that question for me. Then the next question I want you to do is on pages 30 and 31. We're going to skip 28 and 29 because that's the nitrogen cycle, which is next lesson. 30 and 31 is all about decay. So we've got some graphical skills to have a go at on this one, graphing skills, okay, and reading off data and analysing the data and comparing the different mesh sizes in these bags for decay. Page 32 and 33 is also about decay. It's just from a different perspective. It's looking at how pH of the soil alters decay. So that goes from page 32, 33 to page 34. And then our last questions that we're going to do are on the bottom of page 35. So only this bit where we've got the tree. That bit, okay, you don't need to do. This bit on the tree is to do with the carbon cycle. And again, this was a foundation tier question, so it should be nice and easy. And over the page, another one on decay. Decay comes up quite frequently and about microorganisms. And this last one, please leave, okay, because this is a nitrogen cycle that we will be going on to later, okay. So hopefully you will complete those tasks for me in the lesson. And what I will do is, as I've done before with the previous booklet, I will put the answers on for this booklet once we've finished the nitrogen cycle. So we've got another double lesson in 2 weeks' time where we'll be looking at the nitrogen cycle, and that will pretty much take us to the end of this booklet. Okay, thank you, Year 10.